I'm David Berry, doing a mortgage project for my math class, Math 1324, with Miss Veronica Murga at El Paso Community College. Get started. This part one was to find my dream home or my own home, and this is a picture of my house. This is the amount that we bought it for, $91,935. Our rate was 3.25%, and historical data shows that 15-year mortgage at that time would have been about 2.74%. Part two is to find the monthly payment for each of the different mortgage methods, the 15 and the 30. So this is the formula used. PMT, which is payment, equals PV, which means present value when the loan was originated, times rate divided by the number of compounding periods in the year, over 1 minus 1 plus the rate divided by number of compounding periods, to the power of negative the number of compounding periods times the years times the time in years. So part two, first step is to substitute the known variables. So we have present value is $91,935. Rate, which is in decimal form, is 0.0274. The number of compounding periods is 12 because it's annual, and the time is 15 years for the first calculation. This gives the following equation. Payment equals $91,935 times 0.0274 divided by 12 over 1 minus 1 plus 0.0274 divided by 12 to the power of negative 12 times 15. That simplifies down to payment equals $91,935 times 0.00678, and a whole bunch more digits which I don't need to read to you. And it gives us a payment value of about $623.45. The next step is to substitute the variables for the second equation for the 30-year mortgage. So present value is the same, months is the compounding periods is the same, it's still monthly, but our rate has changed to 0.325, and the time is now 30 years. This gives us the same equation but with different numbers, and gives us payment equals $91,935 times 0.004352063, and a payment of about $400.11. All right, part 2B, calculating the total payments and interest paid for each option. So the formula for that is A, which is the ending amount, the total amount that's been paid, equals payment times number of compounding periods times years. So for the 15-year mortgage, it's A equals $623.45 times 12 times 15, which gives us $112,221. Calculate the total interest paid over the course of the mortgage. We have to subtract the total, the original price from the total that we paid. So this is the formula here. It's interest equals ending value minus principal, or $112,221 minus $91,935, which gives us about $20,286 in interest for the 15-year mortgage. For the 30-year mortgage, payment equals $400.11. So our total payments is $400.11 times 12 times 30, which gives us $144,039 approximately. To calculate the interest, we do the same thing we did before. We subtract the original amount from the total paid, and that gives us what we've paid in interest, which is $52,104 on a $93,000 loan. So it's pretty expensive. Part 3, amortization schedule. I've eliminated most of the in-between years because it really only matters for our purposes the difference between principal and interest at the beginning and at the end. As you can see, for a 15-year mortgage, interest is about a third of the total payments for the year. And principal is about 2/3. But then towards the end of it, the last year, principal is almost the entire payment for that whole year, whereas the interest is very, very small. So we'll compare this now to the 30-year mortgage. Oops, too far. Where you can see that the interest for the first year is not quite twice the principal. So for a 15-year mortgage, about 1/3 of your interest of your payment was interest, and 2/3 was principal. With a 30-year mortgage, it's the opposite. About a third is principal and 2/3 is interest. But then, as you can see at the end, after 30 years, the total payments for the year are almost entirely principal and almost no interest. Part 4, pros and cons of buying a house with cash, which we will compare to buying it with a 15-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage. Pros of paying with cash. You don't have to pay any interest, so the total you pay is exactly what the house sold for. Save a lot of money that way. We were looking at, I think, $20,000 with a 15-year mortgage or $50,000 with a 30-year mortgage. That's a significant portion of the total cost of the home that you save by paying with cash. Another pro is you don't have to worry about making your payments. It's not really a big one. Most of us have bills anyway, so it's a small pro for buying with cash. Con, it takes a very long time to save up enough money to buy a house with cash. And if you're renting, all that money that you've spent on rent is money that you're not putting towards a house payment. So it actually can end up, sometimes it's more expensive to buy with cash, which I'll go into in a little bit when I get to the 15 and 30-year mortgages. Another con is because it takes so long to save, you can't move in right now unless you have already saved for your house. Pros and cons of buying a house with a 15-year mortgage. Pro, saves rent. If you're buying a house, you're not paying rent, you're building equity with your payments. Another pro is compared to the 30-year, it has a much lower interest rate, and the total interest is just enormously smaller for a 15-year mortgage. Another pro is that you can get it now because you're making payments instead of waiting and saving up for it. Another pro is compared to the 30-year mortgage, you're paying it off much faster, 15 years instead of 30. Another pro is insurance. When you get a mortgage, your mortgage company will require a policy that will cover them so that they will get their money back if something happens to the house. That's usually in addition to your homeowner's insurance, so it's an additional expense. So with a 15-year mortgage, you're only paying that extra insurance money for 15 years instead of 30. Con, the payment for a 15-year mortgage is much higher. I think it was $623 a month for a 15-year mortgage versus $400 for a 30. It's a lot more money every month. It's harder on your budget. Another con is that it's harder to obtain. Because the payment is higher, you have to show a higher level of income to prove that you'll be able to make your payments. Also, con, it was a pro up here, but it's also a con because you are paying that insurance. It's less for the 15 than for the 30, but it's still a con because it's still an added expense that you wouldn't have had to pay if you bought it with cash. Another con is it takes longer to build a safety net with a 15-year versus a 30-year. If I have a 30-year mortgage, then I can save money and I can make extra payments and have my future payments already paid off if I have a hard time and I end up not able to pay 1 month. Well, then I've got a few months built up. With a 15-year mortgage, it's a lot harder to build up that safety net of prepayments. Pros and cons of buying a house with a 30-year mortgage. Pros, it saves rent and builds equity, just like the 15-year mortgage. Another pro is that it's got a low monthly payment compared to the 15-year mortgage. Another pro, like the 15-year, I can have it now. I can buy a house now and not save for decades to buy a house. Another pro is that it's easier to obtain because the payment is lower, so you don't have to show as much income to be able to meet your monthly payments. Another pro, which is just the flip side of the con from the 15-year mortgage, is that it takes less time to build a safety net. Also, with the 30-year mortgage, because you're paying less of your monthly income to your house payment, if you have higher rate debt, you can pay that off faster with a 30-year mortgage, which could end up saving you in interest overall. Con of a 30-year mortgage is that they always have a higher interest rate than a 15-year mortgage. You have to pay a lot more in total interest, and it also takes a lot longer to pay off a 30-year mortgage if you're making the scheduled payments. And then just like with the 15-year mortgage, that mortgage insurance is an additional expense that you wouldn't have had to pay if you bought it with cash. Okay, I thought I had another slide, but that's okay. I'd like to thank myamortizationschedule.com, that's where I got my amortization chart, and yrates.com, which is where I got the data for historical 15-year mortgage rates. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.